There's no difference. There's no difference. He says, as it says.
What line we're on? Sorry, what line are we on, Rabbi?
We're in the middle of
third line of the new Maamar.
the second. No,
Third line.
it's page 168. It's the new paragraph. It's not a new Maamar. It's the part of the same Maamar, a continuation, but it's a new paragraph. Okay, and it's the third line. As it says, we say this in Hallel. Hamagbi lo shaves. Hamagbi lo shaves is exalted to dwell. Hamashpi li lirois, he's lowered to see. Bashamayim v'aretz, in the heavens, the earth. And the explanation of this verse is Magbi lo shaves, since for him to dwell on earth is considered Adam Finitem, there's no justification for Hashem to lower himself. He does, but logically, it's considered a downgrade. Why? Because everything is Adam Finitem. There's no erech. There's no association. Al Kain hu mashpili lidas b'shamayim boris b'shava. So the Rebbe says that's why he lowers himself to see the heavens and the earth, the heavens and the earth equally. Remember, the philosophers argued that God is more spiritual, heaven is closer to God than earth. So what David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Moshe, and we read it on every Hallel, when we say Hallel, is just the opposite. Because Hashem is so exalted, he's transcendental, therefore heavens and earth are both similar to him, and he's not closer to heaven than to earth. In other words, it's let's rather than saying let me read the Rebbe's words. Shemashgiach b'Hasgacha Protis, the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, his providence is individual, specific providence. Al kol echad ve'echad, and every one b'hanevraim of his creations, vayitzurim, and his formations, hayesek tanim, the smallest, shvelim b'nevozim, lowest and most disgusting. If in other words, Yoni, if Gashmias and Ruchnis are equal in the eyes of Hashem, then then both are equal. The mashal given in Chasidus is that the Or Hashem, the light of the sun, shines on the garbage and the filth as much as it does on what? On a palace or a beautiful garden. There's no difference. So why? Because it's not about the place, it's about the one who's shining. And the Eibishter is the same way. Since it's the Eibishter's Hasgacha. Now remember, we're talking now about Hasgacha. Providence. Is HaKadosh Baruch Hu interested in the little leaf that turns from the right to the left when the wind blows, or sometimes from the left to the right? And why is it that sometimes it's from the left to the right and sometimes from the right to the left? And we say that itself is Hasgacha Protis. Maybe you can't figure it out, but it's a divine providence. Or like this morning, I don't know why, but it entered my mind that the previous Rebbe, the author, the Frierdiker Rebbe, in 1933, he issued a call that you should say Tillim every day after davening. That was 1933. So I realized, and I'm now starting to research it, that Yamach Shemoi, his first speech when he announced his reign was 1933. Am I right? Yeah, because the internet, I looked it up on the internet, and it has a list of his dates. So it dawned on me that the Rebbe, and I don't know if the Rebbe knew about it. Maybe the Rebbe lived at the time, this would have to find out. He either still lived in Riga, or he lived already in Warsaw. And the Rebbe was a person who traveled, and he was a communal activist. In addition to writing Chasidus and teaching Chasidus and all that, he was very much a communal activist. So I wouldn't be surprised that he heard about it. But regardless, it's just interesting to me that his call for Tehillim was in 1933. And to me, it's more significant because, one of the criticisms that some had to not only Hasidic Rebbes, but even to Litvish Gaonim, the Rosh Hashivas, a general criticism was why they didn't push the Jews, the Yidden, out of Europe. They basically, by and large, say stay put. You know that was that it was and is still a criticism. Why? So this, to me, the Frierdiker Rebbe, already in 33, he didn't tell them to go, but he saw something coming. Yes, Hillel.
I'm just going to comment that the Rivenover Rebbe, who made those remarks last week, that were reported last week, I was struck that he mentioned that the Rebbes were criticized for that, for not warning the people. And
heavy.
I was struck by his language, yeah.
Heavy criticism. There was a Rosh Hashiva, Yoni probably knows the name, in Taravadas. His son is a big Rav in Flatbush. You might have heard Rabbi Avram Shor. Right, and he speaks, he's very popular. So his father, his father or uncle, what? Rabbi Gedalia, but Rabbi Gedalia, sure. His father went to Kletsk, where Baron Kotler was Rosh Hashiva in Europe, to learn in 1939, and he went there, I think, as a married man, because that was some people did that at the time. They wanted to go to learn in a serious yeshiva, and they married. They just got married. They brought their wife anyway, or maybe he was getting married. I don't recall. But there's a letter from Rabbi writes, and the parents wrote him a letter. The parents of Rabbi Shor wrote him a letter. Come home now. There's talk of war breaking out. This is summer of 39. So he discussed it with Rabbi Kotler, who told him he should not leave. And Rabbi told him, it's in the letter, so no one can deny it, okay? And in fact, Lakewood printed the letter. So I don't know why they did that, but they printed the letter, and I saw the letter. And in my book on Lakewood and Lubavitch, I inserted that section. So Rabbi says, and regarding the furniture, I have an echo. Hillel, can you turn off your something? So thank you. So the Rabbi says, and about the furniture, I'll take care of the furniture. I'll deal with the furniture. I mean, he was doing everything to try to get Rabbi Gedalia Shor to stay in Kletsk and stay in Europe and not leave. And there's other words in the letter, like don't have fear. I don't remember everything. But that was the general message. Lo and behold, he didn't listen. He listened to his parents. You have to understand, where he was coming from. He was an American boy, and your parents are, they're on your case, It's not like today where, the Panovich or Talmidim look at their Rosh Hashiva as God and the Hasidim look at their Rebbe as God. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that way, okay? You have to always understand the time and the culture. I keep on saying this over and over and over because we make judgments and we have no understanding of time and culture. It's very important because it's reality. Many people today don't want to realize that reality, or they want to shove it under the carpet, Anyway, so he listened, and that's how he was saved. He would have been killed. Okay? And there's more that I could say, but I don't want to say. Because only, the leaders got the visas to leave and run away. So Rabbaran's entire yeshiva was wiped out, and he escaped because he was Rabbaran Kotler. So from America, they made sure that he got out. At least they, got him the visas and they paid off and all that. And the same was true with other Rebbes. I don't want to go into it. It's a very, very delicate and sensitive issue. But what you heard, Hillel, is definitely by the critics. by the academics. I'll give you another example. Just recently, I was finishing my book on Mir. I came across an academic article from a professor in Atlanta. I don't recall his name. And he asks a very good question. Why is it that only the Mir Yeshiva was saved? In Shanghai, there were three little groups from yeshivas. Chachmi Lublin from Mayor Shapiro, right? From his yeshiva, a small group. The Amshinov Rebbe's, a small group. And then 39 Lubavitcher students, a Lubavitcher yeshiva. And Mir had 200 to 300 students. And there's a very famous picture. I printed it in my next book. You'll see of them learning in this massive Beis Medrash they called the Beit Aaron Shul on, I forget now, and a museum row was called in Shanghai. And Rabbi Meir Ashkenazi, who happened to be a Lubavitcher, and he was the Rav of not that shul, but another shul, but he was popular and well connected, and he got them that shul. So you see a beautiful, large yeshiva. So this professor asks a question: Why only Mir? What happened to Kletsk? What happened to Slobodka? And it goes on and on. He's not even talking about Hasidic yeshivas. Talking about Litvish yeshivas. Rabbi Chaim Dalfin told everyone that he believes the place to be is Vilna. So everyone comes to Vilna. Because first the Rabbi Chaim was accepted by everyone. And he was Rabbi Chaim. So everyone, trusted him. And he was a popular person and well-connected. So they listened. They came from all over. So nevertheless, which yeshiva escapes? As a full yeshiva, I'm not saying every single one, but the majority of the yeshiva Bachrim of Mir survived and came to Shanghai and came to America and came to Eretz Yisrael. That's how Mir was established in American Eretz Yisrael in a strong way. So this professor asked the question, and then he goes on in what I feel and is disgusting. But he's an academic. He basically says, I'm giving to you one line, that they were elitists and they were able to buy off the population and they got American Vad Hatzola to get them out. That's what he says. and he has his proofs, right or wrong. But I'm sharing that with you. And this is an academic study that was done probably in the last 5 years or so. So the academic world is very obsessed with this issue of criticizing, the Rosh Hashiva and the Hasidic Rebbes and all that. At least I don't understand, and it's not my place, to understand all of this. But you should know there was criticism, and there was also criticism in the Jewish community in the yeshiva world. Don't think that the Rabbi and some other yeshivas, there were other people in the yeshiva world in Europe who were upset with their decision, and so too with the Hasidic world. But put yourself in their shoes. I guess they still were coming with this attitude that America's treif, America's not kosher, and America's a recipe for becoming non-religious, not frum. So they figured it's best to be here. I don't know, and maybe you have read studies and discussions of it, but that's the bottom line. So the Frierdiker Rebbe, so this is why I started to think. The Frierdiker Rebbe in 1933, and he wasn't the only one. I think there were some Gedolim that also, but the Rebbe called all of a sudden, out of the blue, to say Tehillim. It wasn't for himself. He already been released in 1927 from the Soviet prison, and his life was spared, Baruch. So why is he calling in 1933 for the recitation of Tehillim every day? And by the way, he wasn't calling for this just for Lubavitchers in Lubavitcher Stiebels. He was calling for worldwide Judaism, Litvaks, Chassidim, Sephardic, everyone to say Tehillim. And I know that that's the case because in the 80s or so, or 90s, Rabbi Reichik of Los Angeles, Rabbi Shmuel David Reichik, who was a survivor and, a person I've told you many times, very, very refined. So he once, Simchas Torah, he came into, in Los Angeles, there's a street called La Brea. And the Lubavitcher shul is next to a shul called Magen Avram. Magen Avram was started by Hungarian Jews, and some of which were adherents of the Satmar Rebbe. And when they brought a Rav, he was a Rav, Rabbi Lau, a Satmar Chassid, a Moyo, a very successful person, but and a staunch Satmar. So there was a very Satmar influence, and still is, in that shul, because one of the builders of that shul was a Jew named Rabbi Moshe Weiss, Rabbi Beryl Weiss' brother, and Beryl Weiss became a Lubavitcher, and Moshe stayed a Satmar. And so it was a very interesting, so Beryl basically, took care of the next shul, the Lubavitcher shul, and Moshe was the Satmar shul. So anyway, but Rabbi Reichik was Rabbi Reichik. They looked at him like a Rebbe. They gave him kvitlach. Like a Rebbe, and he, of course, brought him to the Rebbe, Anyway, so one of the, last years of his life, he walked into to Magen Avram on Simchas Torah. And they all broke out with a song, Yomim al Yedei Melech, that the song like a Melech, that they sing that for Rebbes and then leaders and Rosh Hashiva. But Reichik doesn't, he don't go for that stick. He's a Lubavitcher. You don't play that one on me. You know what I'm saying? But he's Rabbi Reichik. He's too refined to tell them to be quiet. So he said, this is what I heard. He said, if you really believe I'm a melech, if you really believe that I'm a king, I'd like you to say Tehillim after davening every day. And he said that for years, he was waiting for the opportunity to share that message from the Frierdiker Rebbe, which was his first Rebbe, not first, the Amshinova was first, but when he became a Lubavitcher as a teenager, and he knew, and that was in the mid-30s, so it was just a few years after 33. But he always, he didn't feel it's his place to tell, tell to another shul and their minhagim and their satmar, But he said, now you're calling me a melech? You're all standing up for me, And if that's the case, then listen, I have a message to share with you. Stay Tehillim after davening. That's what it reminds me of. It's a cute story, but I think it brings out a very, very important point. That if you really believe someone's a melech, listen to what they say. Yes, you want to say something?
Yeah, well, just you were talking about the yeshivas and the rebbes, and I just wanted to share one quick story for my family. That on the opposite side, that the last Rebbe of Kamarna was Baruch of
Stratton.
And when the war broke out, he was in Antwerp, and the Hasidim there said, wanted to tell him that he should stay, and he said, no, my places were back with my people and my kehillah. He went back, and he was murdered. Along with the whole kehillah there, but
right.
It's kind of an act of heroism. I'm not sure if he was my grandmother's brother or nephew, but I'm very close. I know my grandmother mourned him.
Yeah. It's a sour topic. That's all I can say. It's not a comfortable topic, and that's it. So the way I deal with it is that there's a certain, it's a certain area I can't go to because I'm not in that realm. But at the same time, if I could find and show that whether it's the Frierdiker Rebbe or other Rebbes, they did do things to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu's bracha, I think that's important to show and document, and to show and document the timing. Not, so if I could prove that the 1933 call for saying Tehillim is in conjunction with Yamach Shemoy's, coming to rise, etc., I think that's an important piece of history to know about, and similar ideas. Anyway, I want to go back to the text. So what are we? Yes.
Rabbi, just to add on to what you were talking about the yeshivas, Bonovich and Mir and all that, the Einabam Samecha, Rav Teichtel,
Yes.
his book, I read his book, it's a fantastic book. He specifically writes that his book. He says if he was writing the book, apparently they found the book on the boxcars. One of the boxcars going to Auschwitz, and he was killed. He was stabbed by a Polish goy on the boxcar. But in his book, he wrote. He said, had we not listened to our rabbanim, we would have made it to Eretz Yisrael. That's what he said. He said we had probably listened to our rabbis.
I can't hold myself back from commenting on what you said. He came from the same, Weltstandpunkt. He came from the same perspective as the Satmar Rebbe and the Hungarian Rebbes and all that. And when he wrote his Sefer, and he espoused what he believed, which is to go to Eretz Yisrael, they basically they didn't throw him completely under the rug, but they really, it's like one of and he was a massive Talmud Chacham, so, in other words, today, Yoni, they don't respect that part of him, you understand? So to them, it's like, sorry, he was caught by Zionism. That's, he was a Talmud Chacham and he came from our culture, but in this area he made a big mistake, and therefore he's not to be respected in this area. But I am aware of what you said. I did read part of his book, and he was a very special person. And but again, I think it's wrong to judge because we don't know really, what was going on so much that why would they, and I think, I don't know, they were so fearful of America. It was like, to them, it was death. And to them, spiritual death, I guess, was worse than physical death. I don't know more, I don't know, but that's what?
What about Israel, Rabbi? I mean, okay, they feared Zionism, secular Zionism, but as he was saying in the book, they would have saved lives if they would have gone there.
Yeah, but that wasn't their reality. That was not their reality. And unless you were, strong. I mean, the Rosh Hashiva, they cared. Yes, Moshe Mordechai Epstein and others joined a religious Zionist group called Nest Ziona. In the late 1880s, 90s, okay? And I documented this too. Moshe Mordechai Epstein bought property, where? In Hadera. Today's Hadera. And he wanted to move there with others and make a frum community. So there were religious Zionists, but nevertheless, again, this is the way it seems to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it wasn't. They were so far. They were in a different world. First, they were in the yeshiva world. Second, they were in Europe. Then there comes the First World War, the Second World War. It's like, your belief. Yeah, I have a belief, and I'm buying some property. I'm making an investment. But to go, it's like, frankly, I can relate to it. I'd love to live in Eretz Yisrael. But I start thinking about the issues that I have to deal with, family, this, that, and other things. I say, can I really accomplish it? Can I really get it done? And unless you have a strong emunah and l'chatchila ripper, and you jump in, I think it's a very hard thing to do for someone, an American or an Australian or an Englishman. It's a big commitment. So using that, put yourself in their shoes in the 1910s and 20s and 30s. it's difficult. And were there those that did that? By the way, I have my step-grandfather's family. He in 1928 or 29, he couldn't take the poverty of Poland, and he moved to Costa Rica. And then later more Jews from Varsha and those cities and towns and villages moved, and a whole group of Polish Jews began a Jewish community, but most of them were not religious. So there were those that for economic reasons, they were sick and tired of living in one room and not having what to eat. And they were young and enthusiastic. But all I'm saying is it takes a drive. And a Rebbe, a Rosh Yeshiva, like the story of Baron Kotler, but Baron Kotler was such a... He has a yeshiva. They're learning. He believes in Torah. All of a sudden, he's going to dismantle his yeshiva. Why? Because this Rabbi Gedalia Shor, who's a popular student, and he's one of the best in the yeshiva, and he's here to learn. And he picks himself up now because he's scared of the war. What do you think that's going to make on the psyche of all the other students? And he didn't want that. He didn't want to ruin his yeshiva. Call a spade a spade. Very simple. Didn't want to ruin his yeshiva. And the same with the Chasidus. So this was a very difficult situation. So to be judgmental, and it's not our place. That's my feeling. Okay, let's continue.
Obviously, yeah.
Let's continue inside the Maamar. So he says we're talking about the Hasgacha Protis on the Eibishter Hashem has over all creatures, large and small, significant and insignificant. And he even says the word Baruch v'nivazim, even disgusting creatures, there's Hasgacha Protis on them too. Needless to say, the creation and formation, or the exiting and removal of vitality. When Hashem removes the vitality of one of his creatures, even the tiniest and smallest, gam bayetushim, even in gnats, uzvuvim, and flies. A little fly, it's alive, it's dead. Does God really care? Oitzmichas ali ha'ilan, the growth of the leaves on a tree outside of your house, Moshe. V'iz v'asada, the grass on your lawn, is it watered or not? Usli shosham, and they're pulling them out, their removal. Hu bashgacha Protis. In other words, like this, not when you pull out the... If all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and you see that branches fell off your tree in your backyard, it's Hasgacha Protis. If you see that your lawn all of a sudden, I remember once in Florida, in January, February, I was in Florida, and there was ice on the ground. I remember I got up 6:30 to go to the mikveh, go to shul. There was ice. Wow, Hasgacha Protis. Hashem sent that ice on January 15th in Florida. That's Hasgacha Protis. It's divine providence that the individual, that's the emphasis here, Hillel, the individual blade of grass should either be fresh, rotten, or green, or brown, etc. Elo calling Yoni Gilgulim, so he says, needless to say, that's for sure Hashgacha. But Yoni, even all Gilgulim Vatiltulim shall Ola Nitlish v'Nidlish, all the reincarnations and all the movement of an Ola Nitlish, of a torn off leaf, V'Nidaf v'Zochul Telas Bamidbar, and it's Shahak Tshmettered, we say Yiddish, Tshmettered, banged up, and then v'Zochul Telas Bamidbar. It's in the desert. It gets whatever happens to the earth, over Yishuv and in inhabited places. V'sichos and shelchayis, when animals talk to each other, udgei hayom, and sichosen. No, I don't think it means they talk. I think it means here, it should maybe be a shin. I don't know. Maybe it means the swimming. The swimming of the animals with Geayam and the fish. At nuosay shall shulshul cotton till the movement of the minutest creature shebiyam hagodol within the large ocean. It's all divine providence. Protis in all the details within details of all the creations and formations. Vahainu the Hasgacha, next page 169. The Hasgacha the divine providence, the supernal divine providence encompasses min hanetzolim v'hapartzufim from the creations and faces, meaning formats of spiritual faces. In other words, even the angels are called, the Rambam calls them Bali Tzura. They have a form. That's why Avram saw an angel, saw a physical person. And that's why, we have in Tanakh the stories, because an angel has a goof, can sometimes access that body. And this Hasgacha Protis includes again he makes the point, the minutest creature of the inanimate world, shehu kemoi bal gvia levad. In other words, something that's inanimate. It's bal gvia. Bal gvia means like without. It's a form that's silent and dead, right? It just lies there. When it comes to the inanimate world, do you see? You don't see openly the soul of the inanimate, as you do in the form of the vegetation which grows. An animal which just walks around, but a stone lies on the earth, lifeless. But in truth, even the inanimate, who bal nefesh, it has a soul. This is the vitality of its body, of the rock, the stone, vikiyumai, and its existence. Elo de gufa. So if that's the case, Yonason, why is it that the inanimate world is lifeless? Because the physical body, the physical material of the inanimate is so powerful that goveres alatzura. It overpowers the form. So we call this in Chasidus, Moshe Braun, you with me? Chaimer over tsura. Chaimer is material, 1 second, Hillel, over tsura, meaning the form, the chai is the vitality. So because the inanimate, let's say the stone, is such a chaimer, is so material, so much, its preponderance of materiality is so much that it completely wipes away any trace of spirituality, of tsura. Yes, Hillel.
I just want to say, perhaps that's an insight into Rabbi Akiva's chiddush when he saw the water wearing away the rock.
Continue, please. Continue your thought.
That the tzura was giving way. The tzura was giving way to a subtler, higher force, to a spiritual force.
Right.
A more force in it.
Very, very good. We have to begin a sefer, Teiras Hillel. Very, very good. No, I'm serious. No, I'm serious. I didn't mean to belittle you. It's a very interesting thought you just said. Make a note of it and keep it in your journal, please. Hine hakol. Okay, please turn your mute off. Hine hakol ubashgoch el yoyna, says the Rebbe. Everything is divine providence. We learn in the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. The whole bruyats adoimen, that all creations of the inanimate, the vegetation, chai, the living, the medaber, and the speaking, kulam u'shgocha mitim yizbarach, they're all bashgocha protis of the Eibishter, the whole protis in your name, kol echad lefi malosei, everyone with all its details based on its virtue. V'Hakadosh Baruch Hu Mesabev Kam Mesibes, and God Almighty makes all kinds of causes and reasons v'ilois b'chdei lifail eza pu'ula negeil anivra. And he makes it be that something happens, that thing that happens is relevant to that particular creature and creation. V'hakolu b'Hasgacha Protis. And the Hasgacha is not just in a general way. Hanire b'muchesh mamish. And the Rebbe says we see that in actuality. The be'emtza kaya, it's the middle of the summer. B'yoyim bahir, in a bright day. Asher Hashem is b'chol tokvei, the sun is shining with all its potency. Hinel pesapisim, all of a sudden, misayder ruach chozik, there comes a strong wind, that shakes the leaves of the tree, and some leaves fall from the tree, and they spread itself on the roofs and teven, or they fall on the earth on top of teven, straw, that's wandering on the earth, and it blows it away from this way and that way. And after a few minutes of this great strong wind, nishkat, it gets quiet, haruach, the wind, and it's as though there was no wind at all. So why did Hashem make the strong wind all of a sudden? It was a cause coming from God to make the leaves of the ilan of the tree separate, and it made straw that was on a roof fall down, and the wind makes the leaves that have been disattached from the tree, and the straw that rolls to the from the roof down and it ends up somewhere on the floor. This is exactly a decree from the heavenly divine providence. God has a certain godly intent why he wanted that to happen. Even the movement of the leaves or the straw that are rolling over in the street, in the field, it's divine providence in its detail, not just overall. But Hashem cares and wants that leaf should roll from here to there and end up here. If this is true for these domains and kingdoms and species, needless to say how much more so it's true, Baruch, for the species called Medaber, the fourth species, which is the speaking species, B'chlal, overall, meaning human beings. And then there's a fifth category which is brought. It will be Israel, Am Karev, and the Yidden who are his close nation, Yisbarich, of God, Befrat, and specifically Hasgacha El Yoni Yisbarich, that Hashem's divine providence, who Protis calling Yonim, is in every detail of every Jew's life. So again, Bichlal, for humanity. So here's an answer to an important question. Is there divine providence over the human race? The answer is yes. And specifically the Bnei Yisrael. This is the whole idea of prayer, of tefillah, to relate the praise of Hashem in creating creation, the tzva shamayim, the heavenly host, the tzva and the earthly host, and Hashem giving them their needs, beguf and nefesh, with body and soul. You know that the first part of davening, the whole first part, it's all about the trees and the Haydul Hashem Kitayv and the Haaretzu Malayai and the Harim, and it's all about that. Why? Why are we spending time every day, Moshe Myers? Why are we talking about all these trees and the leaves and the mountains? You know why? To knock into our heads, Hasgacha Protis. So that when you ask yourself, is it divine providence that we have this corona, I'm locked up in my house, and if I had it, why did I have it, and what's going to be, and all that? It's Hasgacha Protis. That's right. I had to have it. My wife didn't have it as hard. My kids didn't have it at all, whatever. Why? We're in one house. We're all in one house. You know, go ask Hashem. Hasgacha Protis. For some reason, Hashem says you need this, and this one doesn't need it. Now, of course, we ask for Rachamim, it shouldn't be, and all that. But the point that Ebb is making in this chapter was a very long chapter about one nakuda, 1 point. And this comes as a continuation. Moshe wants to always know the continuation, which is important, to what we learned earlier about the creation of being yesh mi'ayin, ex nihilo, in comparison to what we learned earlier, ila v'olu, right? And all of that makes it clear the difference between the false belief of the philosophers and the Jewish belief that everything is divine providence and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is just as close. He's removed and yet as close to Gashmias as he is to Ruchnis, because like I told you in the past, Ruchnis is also a definition in a box, and therefore and what we added, the pasuk was in Hallel, Hamakbi l'sheves b'shamayim v'oretz hamashpili liros b'shamayim v'oretz. It's also hashpola. Philosophers, you think God is closer to the Ruchnis in the heaven. Hamashpili, it's considered a hashpola. And then you ask yourself, is God really being mashpil himself? The answer is, outwardly looks like a hashpola, but in Pneumius, really, he wants the heavens and he wants the earth exactly alike. So from there, the Rebbe went, from that idea, he jumped into Hasgacha Protis, and he said the same we find. So this whole conversation in today's Shir, in today's paragraph that we learned, is about Hasgacha coming as a follow-up to the Jewish belief that Ruchnis and Gashmis are all the same in the eyes of Hashem. That's the point. And I just want to say that not all Jewish philosophers and Jewish writers, thinkers, I'm talking about, accepted ones, believe this. They believe that the Eibishter is mashgiach, al klolis hamin, on the overall category of a tree. And they said, yes, that Hashem has Hasgacha, but not on the details. That's why he mentioned the Baal Shem Tov. You hear, he mentioned the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said that's not that way. Our Rebbe showed that really what the Rambam says, which many have learned as he not believing that the Hasgacha is on every mean. The Rebbe has an entire writing, and you should learn it sometime, that he wrote in the 1940s, proving that that's not pshat in the Rambam. But just for the record, you should know that not everyone agrees. So in other words, again, so the issue is there Hasgacha Protis on the pratim, on the details? That there's Hasgacha Protis on the klal, on the overall generality? Everyone agrees. That's Judaism 101. Whether it's al kol prat to prat, that's where the Baal Shem Tov's insight comes. Yes, Hillel.
Wasn't the phrase Hashgacha Pratis what the Chazal called it? I mean, it seems like it's implicit in the phrase that it's on the pratim.
Right, but no, because they meant pratis. There is the world of the inanimate, vegetative, living. So pratis means that the individual category. We're talking about within the category itself. That's not what they had in mind with pratis. So that, you understand? Yes, Moshe.
Yeah, I found it very interesting, Rabbi, what you're saying about the inanimate objects, and I hadn't understood this maybe as much before, in that a rock, for instance, you talk about a rock which is inanimate, which we don't think of having a nefesh or a neshama, but you're saying...
Not a neshama, a nefesh.
The chomer.
Right.
A nefesh, right, I should have said that. The chomer is so heavy that you cannot see necessarily. We can't sense it, but you're saying it's there.
Right.
And it's alive, and that really speaks to Movado.
That's right. That's right. And Moshe, the Balatanya says this in brief in the first chapter of the second section of Tanya. It's called Shara Yichud V'Emunah. You have, I'm sure, an English translation, or you can online, Chabad.org. You'll see that he says that in the name of the Arizal, this Nekuda. He doesn't say there that he doesn't go into it that the Chomer, but here I know it's beautiful the way the Rebbe put it, that the reason you don't see it and aware of it is because the Chomer overpowers the Tzura. Baruch, you have any questions? You can ask. Come on.
I don't have any questions. I need to.
Okay, Yonason, you have a question? You have to take off your mic, Yonason.
Unmute yourself.
Mute. You have to unmute your... Yonason, you have a question?
No, I have a statement.
A statement. Please. The Rebbe said in the first year, he said, in America we're accustomed to make statements. Please make your statements.
These says that sometimes the neshama gets reincarnated into a stone.
Yes.
And what happens is if the stone is in the sun, it feels the heat of the sun. And if it's in the cold, it feels the cold of the stone. And if somebody steps on it, then they feel it.
No, yeah, that's from the Arizal. Anyway, guys, have a great day. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Zay Gesund. Take care.
That is a